Hey everybody, it's Tony Cottaspoti from GreatVocalMajority.com, and today I want to talk about this issue with Trump and these women who are claiming he grabbed them or whatever he did with them. Whatever he did, they're claiming he did was inappropriate. So I really want to try to address that because I don't think I'm going to be very popular after I finish this. But I'm kind of fed up with how the media is treating Donald Trump and these women that are now claiming after years, and some of them even after decades, that Trump goosed them somewhere. Now, Donald Trump isn't just some guy. He's a very wealthy, very well-known, very successful businessman. Correct me if I'm wrong. Aren't those attractive qualities to a very high percentage of women? How many women out there would ignore all other personality flaws to become tight with a man having the financial means and lifestyle of a guy like Donald Trump? I think there are a great many women who would like that, and not all, certainly, but whatever the number is, it's very high. Isn't that like objectifying men? Now, don't a lot of women, a real lot of women, see men as success symbols? And don't they do that every bit as much, those women? Don't they do that every bit as much as men view women as sex symbols? In other words, isn't like how much wealth and power a man has to those women as important as the physical attributes of the women that men who see women as sex symbols, you know, how they evaluate women? Isn't it, aren't they like really the same thing? I think they are. Look, objectifying a woman is not the right thing to do, okay? And men are lectured about this constantly. But that lecture only goes in that direction. Women are not sex symbols, and men in this century are not success symbols. But women get away with objectifying men in this manner, and it's just as wrong. But all we ever hear about is how men objectify women as sexual objects, and even today's modern woman gets very defensive when the conversation turns to how they continue to objectify men because, you know, for their security, which comes in the form of financial stability and money and wealth. Isn't it the same thing? Why isn't it the same thing? If you think it's not the same thing, then you explain to me why it isn't the same thing. I mean, surely they're different because one is about money and the other is about sex. But it's objectifying. It's the object. It's an object. Men are viewed as objects of success and stability and security, and women are viewed as sexual objects. How is one any different than the other? I don't think they are. Now, how does this relate to this whole Trump Goosegate? Well, here's how. At least one of these women was reported to have been throwing herself at Donald Trump and being very forward to at least one eyewitness who's come forward already. And if that's true, and that's just one, it can certainly be others, can it? I mean, he's a high-profile kind of guy, and he's putting himself out there. I mean, he ran around on his wife, and he bragged about how he was with all these women and, you know, how he likes women and goes up to them. I mean, he's setting himself up for this stuff, isn't he? And there are plenty of willing partners out there, aren't there? So if that's true, it can be said that there are others that did it beside that woman. And I'm not saying whether it is or it isn't the case, but all I'm looking for here is balance. Because we sure as hell don't have balance now. Now, the circumstances that we've come to learn is that these things offer presumption of truth to anyone, but especially to the women because you know they're women who are aggrieved of a sexual assault. But you know, And I'm not trying to belittle that in any way. Please don't get that idea. But shouldn't there be evidence? I mean, you know, these things happened. That woman on the plane was like, I think 35 or 36 years ago. And I think the most recent one was like 11 years ago. And you know, I'll be honest. The statute of limitations on when you can complain about a billionaire grabbing your butt in a nightclub probably ended, you know, when Donald Trump was in the Republican primary. I mean, I certainly think it looks a little odd that 3 weeks out of an election, you have women coming forward, and they all seem to. Did you notice the video, by the way, of the woman that was on the plane and was interviewed by the New York Times? They had, within 24 hours, they had a 3-camera shoot. It was a highly produced thing. How did that happen so fast? I mean, really think about that. Some of these women claim to not only be supporters of Hillary Clinton, which, you know, that the chance of that is, you know, if you look at the polls, is like 70-30. But even if you say, okay, they're Hillary Clinton supporters, no big deal, but they're also Hillary Clinton contributors. Come on. Look, let's get real. There are no saints in this story. There are only sinners. If a billionaire molested you in a club over 20 years ago, and it really bothered you, why did you have to wait until now? You had plenty of opportunity from June of, 2015, when Trump, you know, famously came down the escalator to make his announcement. You could have come out then. You could have killed this baby in the crib. But no, you waited until 3 weeks before the election? And one after another coming out like that? How does that work? You know how it works? It works with Democrat Party help. That's how it works. This is political. And look, I'm not saying it didn't happen at all. But what I'm saying is, I don't think we can believe anybody. First of all, we can't believe these women because there's no evidence. We don't even know if Trump was really on the plane with this woman, even though the eyewitness was there that said that Trump was on a plane and that the woman was thrown. But we don't know any of that. We don't know who this guy really is. We don't know if Trump is telling him to say these things. We have no idea. We can't believe any of it. We can't believe any of these women who come out and say, 20 years ago when I was in a club, Donald Trump grabbed my butt. Come on. Seriously? Seriously? That's on the news now. I mean, it's ridiculous. And then you put Trump in a position of having to defend it, but I don't blame anybody but Trump for that. Look, Trump, everybody, if you didn't see this coming when Trump announced back in June of 2015, you should have seen it, because we all know the kind of guy Trump was. We all knew that women would come out and say these things. We knew it. So I'm not surprised that the Democrats held back until 3 weeks before the election. And quite frankly, I don't believe any of these women are disconnected from the Democratic Party. I think every single one of them that's coming out is connected to the Democratic Party. And the Democrats have done this before with practically every presidential candidate the Republicans have put out there over the last 30 years. So, I mean, this is not unusual. And most recently, they did it with John McCain. Remember how the New York Times printed front page lead above the fold, alleging that McCain was having an affair with somebody? Remember that? And McCain put the kibosh on that like immediately. And then there was Herman Cain. Remember what they did to Herman Cain? 4 or 5 women come out and they say, oh, he did this and he did that. Very similar to what they're saying about Trump. But let me ask you a question about that. What happened to those women? When Herman Cain, they were so offended, they wanted to take him to court and sue him, and all of that. Gloria Allred, and let me tell you something else. When you see Gloria Allred, you know it's a Democrat Party smear. Are you kidding? That woman? Anyhow, Whatever happened to those women who made those allegations to Herman Cain? Whatever happened to them? You know what happened to them? They crawled back under the rocks they came from. Because as soon as he dropped out of the race, that was all they wanted. They wanted him to drop out. Hey, you think those things even, maybe they happened, maybe they didn't. That's not even really important. What's important is that they're changing your choices for who you want to be as president. Herman Cain was doing pretty well up until that point. So all I'm saying is that women do objectify men every bit as much as men objectify women. And when I say that, I don't mean all women. Obviously, not all men objectify women. Not all women objectify men. But the people who objectify the opposite sex do it as much as men do it as much as the women who do it, and women do it as much as the men who do it. And all I'm looking for is some balance here, because I think it's clearly possible that a lot of these women who are now claiming that they were wronged by Donald Trump were actually, they were coming on to him, and he was a willing participant in that effort. And he probably even initiated it. I'm sure he did. I'm not saying that. I'm not taking any guilt away from him. I'm just saying, whatever they're saying about it now, Trump or any of these women, I don't believe any of them. Because Trump was stupid enough to tell a media guy 11 years ago the kind of stupidity he does. He was on the Howard Stern show, God knows how many times, saying similar things. He brought it on himself. That's what made all of this predictable. You think the Democrats are going to pass that up when they're running the first woman to be president? Are you kidding? This is why the Megyn Kelly question in the first debate was so right on the money. She had to ask that question. And now look what we're getting. We're getting exactly what we should have expected from the very beginning. But having said all of that, I still think Trump is a better person to pick than Hillary Clinton, because this is the kind of politics you're going to get with a Clinton. You're going to get smear politics. This is what the 90s were all about. The Clintons at one point said, we got to end the politics of personal destruction. Well, they invented the politics of personal destruction, and they brought it up to an art form. Are you kidding me? So you're going to get 4 to 8 years of this, but it's going to be much worse. It's going to be against religions. It's going to be against talk radio. It's going to be against everything that most Americans want and believe is their birthright, and that granted to them in the Constitution, to be able to watch or listen to the radio shows or TV shows they want, to worship God in the way they choose, if they choose to have a firearm, to have one. All those things are going to be under attack, and you are going to be smeared by this woman and her party if she's elected. And what you're seeing now is just a preview of what's going to come for all of us if Hillary Clinton gets elected. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks for watching. This is Tony Codispoti from Great Focal Majority. Take care, everybody.